At 3 a.m., my daughter knocked on my door with her children. Her husband had disappeared with all their money. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. The sound woke me from a deep sleep. 3 sharp knocks, urgent but controlled, like someone trying not to wake the entire neighborhood, but desperate enough not to care if they did. I sat up in bed, disoriented. The red numbers on my alarm clock glowed 3:07 a.m. For a moment, I thought I'd dreamed it. Then the knocking came again, harder this time, more insistent. My heart started racing before my mind fully caught up. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m. No one knocks on your door in the middle of the night with good news. I grabbed my robe and rushed down the stairs, my knees protesting the sudden movement. Through the peephole, I could see her. Sarah, my daughter. Her face was pale in the porch light, streaked with tears. Behind her, I could make out 2 small shapes, Lily and Mason, my grandchildren. I fumbled with the locks, my hands shaking. When I finally got the door open, Sarah collapsed into my arms. "Mom," she sobbed into my shoulder. "Mom, he's gone. He took everything. Everything." Behind her, 6-year-old Lily clutched her little brother's hand. Mason, only 4, had his thumb in his mouth, eyes wide and confused. They both wore mismatched pajamas and no shoes. Lily had tears running silently down her cheeks. I held Sarah with one arm and reached out with the other, pulling the children inside. Come in. It's okay. You're safe now." But even as I said the words, my mind was reeling. He's gone. He took everything. Brian, my son-in-law, the man who'd promised to love and cherish my daughter forever. Gone. I need to back up. I need you to understand how we got here, how I never saw this coming, even though maybe I should have. Sarah came into the world on a gray November morning 31 years ago. She was 2 weeks early and came fast, so fast that we barely made it to the hospital. My husband Richard held my hand through the whole thing, and when they placed Sarah in my arms, tiny and red-faced and screaming, I thought my heart would burst from the love. She was our only child. We'd tried for years before Sarah came along, and after her, there would be no more. So she got all of our love, all of our attention, all of our hopes and dreams. Sarah was an easy child. Not perfect, no child is, but gentle and sweet-natured. She loved books and art, and spent hours drawing elaborate fairy tale scenes in her notebooks. In elementary school, she'd come home and tell me stories about her day, about her friends, about the butterfly they'd seen at recess. "Mom, did you know butterflies taste with their feet?" she'd say, eyes wide with wonder. "I didn't know that. That's amazing. I'm going to be a butterfly when I grow up." "I think you already are one, sweetheart." She'd giggle and go back to her drawings. Middle school was harder. Sarah struggled with math and with the mean girls who seemed to target anyone who was different. She came home crying more than once because someone had made fun of her clothes or called her weird for reading during lunch. I held her through those tears. Those girls are just insecure. They pick on others to feel better about themselves. But why me? Because you're special. You're kind and creative and smart. And people who are afraid of being ordinary sometimes attack people who aren't. I don't want to be special. I just want to be normal. Normal is overrated, baby. Trust me. Richard and I did everything we could to support her. We got her a math tutor. We talked to the school about the bullying. We made sure she knew she was loved unconditionally, that our home was always a safe place. High school was better. Sarah found her people, the art kids, the theater kids, the ones who spent lunch discussing books and movies, instead of who was dating who. She blossomed, joined the drama club, won awards for her paintings, started applying to colleges with good art programs, and then, in her senior year, she met Brian. He was a year older, already in community college, working part-time at the coffee shop where Sarah liked to study. Good-looking in that clean-cut, all-American way. Polite, charming. He held doors open, said, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, sir," brought Sarah flowers on their first date. I liked him immediately. Richard was more cautious. "There's something too smooth about him," he'd say. "He's just polite. We raised Sarah to appreciate good manners." It's not the manners. It's the way he's always performing, like he's playing a part. You're being paranoid. Sarah's happy. That's what matters. Looking back, I wish I'd listened to Richard's instincts, but at the time, I was just relieved that Sarah had found someone who treated her well, who made her smile, who seemed stable and dependable. They dated through Sarah's first year of college. Brian proposed on her 19th birthday, in front of her whole family at a restaurant. It was a big production roses, a photographer, the ring presented in a champagne glass. Sarah said yes through tears of joy. Richard pulled me aside that night. "She's too young. She's in love. She's 19. She doesn't know what love is yet." We were 20 when we got married. That was different. We'd known each other since we were 16. Sarah's known Brian less than 2 years. "She's happy, Richard. Can't you just be happy for her?" He sighed. I'm happy for her. I'm just worried." "She'll be fine. Brian's a good man." "Is he, or is he good at seeming like a good man?" I dismissed his concerns, told him he was being overprotective, that he needed to let Sarah grow up and make her own choices. God, I wish I'd listened. They got married the summer after Sarah's sophomore year. Small wedding, just family and close friends. Sarah wore my wedding dress, altered to fit her smaller frame. She looked so beautiful walking down the aisle, so young and radiant and full of hope. Brian cried during his vows, talked about how Sarah was his soulmate, his best friend, the love of his life, promised to cherish her, to provide for her, to build a beautiful life together. Everyone said it was the most romantic wedding they'd ever seen. Richard died 6 months later. Heart attack, sudden and massive. He was only 53. Sarah was devastated. We both were. But Brian was wonderful through it all. He handled the funeral arrangements, helped me with the paperwork, made sure Sarah ate and slept and didn't fall apart completely. "You're so lucky to have him," people kept telling Sarah. And she was. Or so I thought. After Richard died, Brian became even more important to me. Not just as Sarah's husband, but as the man of our little family. He'd call me regularly to check in. He'd come over and fix things around the house that I couldn't manage on my own. He'd bring Sarah over for Sunday dinners, and we'd all sit around my kitchen table like a real family. Lily was born when Sarah was 23. Beautiful baby girl with Sarah's eyes and Brian's dark hair. I fell in love the moment I held her. "You're going to be an amazing grandmother," Sarah said, watching me cradle Lily. "And you're going to be an amazing mother. I'm terrified." "That means you'll be great at it. The ones who aren't scared are the ones you have to worry about." Sarah laughed, though it was shaky with exhaustion and hormones. "Brian's already talking about having another one soon." "Soon?" "Sarah, you just had a baby. Give yourself time." "He wants a boy. He says every man needs a son." Something about the way she said it bothered me, but I pushed the feeling aside. "What do you want?" I want to enjoy Lily for a while. Is that selfish?" "That's not selfish at all. That's being a good mother." But 18 months later, Sarah was pregnant again. Mason arrived early, a tiny thing with breathing problems that kept him in the NICU for 2 weeks. Sarah barely left the hospital. I stayed with Lily during those weeks, and when I visited Sarah, I could see the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. "How are you holding up?" I asked. "I'm fine, just tired." "Where's Brian?" "Work. They're really busy this month. He'll come by this evening." He didn't come by that evening, or the next. He finally showed up on day 3, spending 20 minutes cooing over Mason, before checking his phone and saying he had to get back to work. "Is everything okay with you two?" I asked Sarah after he left. "Of course. Why?" "He just seems distant. He's stressed about money. 2 kids are expensive, and his job isn't as secure as we'd hoped." "What does he do again?" "Sales. Commercial real estate. It's commission-based, so some months are better than others." I didn't know much about Brian's work. He'd always been vague when I asked, changing the subject or making jokes about how boring real estate was. I'd assumed that meant he was being considerate, not wanting to bore me with details. Now I wonder what he was hiding. The next few years passed in a blur of birthday parties and holidays and ordinary life. Sarah had her hands full with 2 small children. Brian was always working, or so he said. He'd miss Lily's dance recitals and Mason's preschool performances. "He feels terrible about it," Sarah would say, "but this is a crucial time for his career. He's building something for our future." The kid's future is happening right now. These moments don't come back. "I know, Mom, but someone has to provide for the family." "You work too," I pointed out. Sarah had a part-time job doing graphic design from home. "That's just extra money. Brian's the real breadwinner." I didn't like the way she said it. Like her contributions didn't matter, like she was somehow less than. But I bit my tongue. It wasn't my marriage. It wasn't my place to interfere. The warning signs started maybe 2 years ago. Small things, insignificant things. Things I noticed but explained away. Brian started missing family dinners. "Work emergency," Sarah would say. "Big client meeting. Out-of-town conference." Their house, which had always been modest but comfortable, started looking worn down. Paint peeling, grass overgrown, light fixtures that stayed broken for weeks. "We're saving money," Sarah explained when I offered to help. "Brian has a big investment opportunity. Once it pays off, we'll fix everything." Investment opportunity. That should have been my first red flag. Then Sarah stopped buying new clothes, stopped getting her hair done, started looking perpetually tired and stressed. "Are you sure everything's okay?" I'd ask. "Everything's fine, Mom. Stop worrying." But mothers don't stop worrying. It's not in our DNA. Christmas last year, Brian gave Sarah an expensive necklace. Diamond pendant, white gold chain. Must have cost thousands. "Brian, this is too much," Sarah said, but she was smiling. "Nothing's too much for my girl," he said, kissing her forehead. I noticed Sarah wasn't wearing her wedding ring. When I asked about it later, she said it was being resized. It was never resized. I realize now she'd probably sold it. In February, Sarah called me crying. "Mom, our credit cards were declined at the grocery store. All of them. Brian says it's just a mix-up with the bank, but..." "But what?" "I don't know. Something feels wrong. Can I help? I can lend you some money." No. Brian would be humiliated. He's the provider. He'd see it as a failure. "Sarah, pride isn't more important than feeding your children. It's fine. Brian transferred money from savings. It's handled." But it wasn't handled. Things kept happening. Their car got repossessed. "Just a temporary thing," Sarah said. "Brian's restructuring our finances. Their internet got shut off. We're downgrading services to save money." I started finding excuses to bring groceries over. "Oh, I bought too much? Would you take some off my hands?" Boxes of pasta and canned goods and bags of rice. Sarah would accept them gratefully, and I'd see the relief in her eyes, even as she pretended it wasn't a big deal. I confronted Brian once. It was in July, at Lily's 7th birthday party. He showed up late, missing the cake cutting, and when he finally arrived, he immediately got on his phone. I pulled him aside. "Is everything all right with you and Sarah?" "Of course, why?" "She seems stressed, and you've been so busy lately." "That's life with kids and a career, Ellen. I'm sure you remember." "I do remember. I also remember making time for the people I loved." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Are you implying I don't love my family?" "I'm implying that love requires presence. And lately, you don't seem very present." "With all due respect, Ellen, My marriage is between me and Sarah. My daughter is my business. Your daughter is a grown woman who doesn't need her mother fighting her battles. He walked away before I could respond. I told Sarah about the conversation. She got defensive. Why would you say that to him? You embarrassed him in front of the kids. I pulled him aside. No one heard. Still, he's doing his best, Mom. This is a hard time for him. What about you? Isn't this a hard time for you too? I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. I could see it every time I looked at her. The weight loss, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she flinched when her phone rang, like she was expecting bad news. In September, I stopped by their house unannounced. Sarah answered the door looking panicked. Mom, what are you doing here? I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd see if you wanted to grab lunch. Now's not a good time. Why not? She hesitated too long. Brian's working from home today. I could see past her into the living room. It was empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of furniture. The couch was gone, the TV, the bookshelf. Sarah, where's your furniture? We're redecorating. Brian's having some new pieces delivered. She was lying. I could see it in her face, hear it in her voice. Sarah, I really have to go, Mom. I'll call you later. She closed the door in my face. I stood on her porch for a full minute, debating whether to ring the bell again, to push harder, to demand the truth. I should have. God, I should have. Instead, I left. Went home. Told myself that Sarah was an adult, that she'd come to me when she was ready, that pushing would only drive her away. 2 weeks ago, Sarah showed up at my door. No kids, no warning. She looked terrible, hollow-eyed, and thin, swimming in clothes that used to fit. Can we talk? She asked. Of course. Come in. She sat at my kitchen table while I made tea, her hands wrapped around the mug, like she was trying to absorb its warmth. Mom, I need to tell you something. Okay. Brian and I are having problems. Not a surprise, but hearing her say it out loud still made my stomach clench. What kind of problems? Money problems, big ones. I just found out we're 6 months behind on the mortgage. The bank sent a foreclosure notice. 6 months? Sarah, how? I don't know. Brian handles the finances. He said everything was fine. He kept saying he was taking care of it, that I didn't need to worry. But it's not fine. We're losing the house. Where's the money going? Brian makes good money, doesn't he? Sarah's hands shook. I thought he did, but I've been looking at bank statements, and there are all these withdrawals I don't understand. Large amounts, thousands of dollars at a time. When I asked Brian about it, he got angry, said I was questioning his ability to provide, that I needed to trust him. That's not an answer. I know, but what can I do? It's his money. He earns it. It's your money, too. You're married. You have children together. You have a right to know where the money goes. She started crying. I feel so stupid. I trusted him. I believed him when he said everything was under control. I moved my chair closer and held her hand. You're not stupid. You're trusting. There's a difference. What do I do? Do you think he's gambling or drinking? I don't know. Maybe. He's been so secretive. He's always on his phone, always taking calls in the other room. Sometimes he doesn't come home until late, and when I ask where he's been, he says work stuff. Could he be having an affair? Sarah's face crumpled. I don't know. God, Mom, I don't know anything anymore. We talked for 2 more hours. I convinced her to start gathering documents, to check bank accounts, to protect herself and the kids. I offered again to help financially. She refused. I need to handle this with Brian. We need to figure this out together. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me if things get worse, you'll come to me. I promise. That was 2 weeks ago, 12 days. I called her every day after that, but she always said the same thing. We're working on it. Brian's got a plan. Everything's going to be fine. Everything was not fine. At 3:07 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, my daughter knocked on my door with her children, and the world shifted on its axis. I got Sarah and the kids inside, locked the door behind them. Lily was shivering despite the warm September night. Mason had fallen asleep on Sarah's shoulder, his thumb still in his mouth. "Let me put the kids to bed first," I said. "Then you can tell me everything." I carried Mason up to the guest room while Sarah walked beside me with Lily. The children were too exhausted to question what was happening. I tucked them into the bed together, pulled the covers up to their chins. "Grandma, where's Daddy?" Lily whispered. "He had to go somewhere, sweetheart, but you're safe here with Mommy and me." "Is he coming back?" I looked at Sarah. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. "Let's talk about it in the morning, okay? You need sleep." Lily nodded and closed her eyes. Within minutes, both children were out. Sarah and I went downstairs. I poured her a glass of water she didn't drink and sat across from her at the kitchen table. "Tell me," I said. And she did. The story came out in broken pieces, interrupted by sobs and long silences. Brian had been planning this for months, maybe longer. While Sarah thought he was working late, he'd been systematically draining their accounts. Not just their joint checking, but savings, retirement funds, even the college funds she'd started for the kids. He'd maxed out credit cards, taken out loans against the house, opened new credit cards in Sarah's name without her knowledge, and maxed those out too. "I found the statements," Sarah said, "hidden in his office. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Gone. And I have no idea where it went." "When did you find out?" "This morning. Yesterday morning. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I found a letter from a lawyer. Someone suing us for a debt I didn't even know existed. $50,000. I confronted Brian about it, asked him to explain everything, to show me where the money went." She stopped, her whole body shaking. "What did he say?" "At first he tried to lie. Said it was a misunderstanding, that he'd handle it. But I wouldn't let it go. I kept pushing. And finally, he just snapped. Started yelling about how I was ungrateful, how he'd been killing himself to provide for us, how I had no right to question him." "Then what happened?" "Then he just left. Walked out the door in the middle of the argument. I thought he was going to cool off, that he'd come back. But he didn't come back. Hours passed. I tried calling, he didn't answer. I called his office. They said he'd quit 3 months ago. My blood ran cold." "He quit?" "In June. He's been lying to me every single day since then. Getting up, getting dressed, pretending to go to work. Where was he going? What was he doing all day?" "Did you call the police?" "And tell them what? That my husband left?" "They said unless there's evidence of a crime, there's nothing they can do. He's an adult. He's allowed to leave. But the money, it's not theft. It was joint accounts. Legally, he had every right to withdraw it. The injustice of that made me want to scream." "I went to the bank," Sarah continued. "All our accounts are empty. Checking, savings, everything. Closed. He transferred everything out yesterday afternoon. Before he came home. Before we fought. He'd already decided. He was already gone." "How much?" "Everything. Every penny we had. Which wasn't much, but it was something. It was enough to feed the kids, to pay bills. And now it's gone." "What about the house?" Sarah laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. "The house is in foreclosure. Has been for months, apparently. We have 30 days to vacate." "Jesus Christ. I have $97 in cash. That's what I grabbed before I left. That, and the kids, and some clothes. That's all I have left of my marriage, Mom. $97 and 2 traumatized children." I reached across the table and gripped her hands. They were ice cold. "You have me," I said fiercely. "You have this house. You have a place to stay for as long as you need. You're not alone. I feel alone. I feel so stupid and alone, and I don't know what to do." "You're not stupid. He lied to you. He manipulated you. None of this is your fault." "I should have seen it. The signs were all there. You even tried to warn me and I didn't listen. Dad tried to warn me years ago, and I didn't listen. I was so desperate to believe in him, to believe we were a happy family, that I ignored everything. We all ignored things. I ignored things. I should have pushed harder, should have demanded answers. But we both wanted to believe the best of him. That doesn't make us stupid. It makes us human. Sarah put her head down on the table and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere primal. I came around to her side and held her. This child I'd brought into the world 31 years ago. My daughter, who'd believed in fairy tales and butterflies and happily ever after. My daughter, who'd been betrayed by the man who'd promised to cherish her forever. I loved him, she cried. I loved him so much, Mom. I gave him everything, everything, and he just threw us away like we were nothing. I know, baby, I know. What do I tell the kids? How do I explain that their father abandoned them? We'll figure it out together, one day at a time. I have nothing, no money, no house, no job that pays enough to support 3 people. I can't do this. Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think, and you're not doing it alone. We sat like that for a long time. Eventually, Sarah's sobs quieted to occasional hiccups. She lifted her head, wiped her eyes. I should call someone, file a police report or something. In the morning, right now, you need sleep. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face. The way he looked at me when I asked about the money. Like I was a stranger. Like he hated me. He's the one who should be hated. I don't even have the energy to hate him. I just feel empty. I made up the other guest room for Sarah. She protested weakly. I should sleep with the kids. But I insisted. They're fine. You need your own space. She was asleep within minutes, exhaustion finally overcoming the adrenaline. I went back downstairs and sat at the kitchen table in the dark. My mind was racing. What had Brian done with all that money? Where was he now? And most importantly, had he planned this from the beginning? Had he married Sarah knowing he'd eventually drain her dry and disappear? The thought made me physically ill. I thought about Richard, about how he'd seen something in Brian from the very beginning, something I'd dismissed as fatherly paranoia. God, I missed him, missed his steady presence, his instincts, his ability to see through people's performances. You were right, I whispered to the darkness. About everything. I should have listened. As the sun started to rise, I made a list. Practical steps. Things that needed to happen. Call a lawyer. File a missing persons report, even if the police said there was nothing they could do. Get copies of all documents. Check Sarah's credit report. Start documenting everything. Find Sarah a job. Enroll the kids in school near my house. Apply for any benefits they might qualify for. Sell some things if necessary. Downsize. Whatever it took to make room for 3 more people in my life and my home. I wouldn't let them fall. I wouldn't let Brian destroy what was left of my family. At 7, I heard small footsteps on the stairs. Mason appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed bear, his hair sticking up in all directions. Grandma? Hey, buddy, did you sleep okay? He nodded. Where's Daddy? My heart broke. Your daddy had to go away for a while. When's he coming back? I don't know, sweetheart. Did we do something bad? I knelt down and pulled him into a hug. No, baby. You didn't do anything bad. None of this is your fault. Do you understand? He nodded against my shoulder, but I could tell he didn't really understand. How could he? He was 4 years old. Lily came down next, and I made them both breakfast. Pancakes, because I didn't know what else to do, and pancakes are what you make when you're trying to pretend everything is normal. Sarah appeared at 9, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. She went through the motions of caring for the kids, getting them dressed, brushing Lily's hair, but her movements were mechanical, her eyes distant. Over the next few days, the reality of the situation became even clearer. Brian had left no trace. His phone was disconnected. His email bounced back. His social media accounts were deleted. It was like he'd ceased to exist. The lawyer I consulted said there wasn't much we could do. Yes, Brian had technically committed fraud by opening credit cards in Sarah's name, but proving it would be difficult and expensive. The joint accounts were legal. He had every right to withdraw the money. The system isn't built to protect people in your daughter's situation, the lawyer said bluntly. I'm sorry. Sarah had to file for bankruptcy. The house went into foreclosure. Her credit was destroyed. But we survived. I sold Richard's old truck and his tool collection, cleaned out the garage, and had a massive yard sale. Every penny went into a fund for Sarah and the kids. Sarah got a job at a local design firm. It didn't pay much, but it was a start. She worked during the day while I watched the kids. In the evenings, she took online courses to upgrade her skills. Lily and Mason adjusted. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget. They asked about Brian less and less as the months passed. They started calling my house home. We celebrated Christmas in my tiny living room. I couldn't afford much, but Sarah had saved enough for small gifts for the kids. Lily got art supplies. Mason got a set of toy cars. They were thrilled. That night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah and I sat by the Christmas tree drinking wine. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. I don't know what we would have done without you. You're my daughter. There's no thanks necessary. I know you're disappointed in me, in the choices I made. I'm not disappointed in you. I'm heartbroken for you. There's a difference. I was so stupid to trust him. You weren't stupid. You were in love. We all make mistakes when we're in love. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Sometimes I wonder if he ever loved me, or if the whole thing was a lie from the beginning. I don't know. Maybe he loved you as much as he was capable of loving anyone. Some people just aren't wired right for real love. Do you think he thinks about us? About the kids? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. He doesn't deserve to think about you. He doesn't deserve to know how amazing Lily and Mason are turning out to be. Sarah smiled, a real smile. They are pretty amazing. They are, and so are you. 6 months after that terrible night, we'd established a new normal. Sarah had been promoted at work. The kids were thriving in their new school. We'd moved into a rhythm as an extended family, messy and chaotic, but also full of love. Then, 7 months after he'd disappeared, Brian called. Sarah's phone rang during dinner. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? I watched her face change, watched the color drain from her cheeks. Brian, she whispered. Lily looked up from her plate. Mason stopped mid-bite. Sarah stood and walked into the other room. I could hear her voice, low and tense, but couldn't make out the words. She came back 10 minutes later and sat down. Her hands were shaking. That was him, she said unnecessarily. What did he want? To explain, to apologize, to ask if he could see the kids. Rage flooded through me, hot and immediate. He what? He said he's been in therapy, said he had a breakdown, that he couldn't handle the pressure of providing for a family, that he panicked and ran. Said he knows what he did was unforgivable, but he wants to make amends. He wants to be a father to the kids. Absolutely not. That's what I said. But Mom, he's their father. Legally, he has rights. He gave up those rights when he abandoned you, when he stole from you, when he left his 4-year-old son asking if it was his fault Daddy left. Sarah was crying. I know. But what if he fights for custody? What if he takes them? He can try. We'll fight him. We'll document everything. We'll show the court what he did. What if it's not enough? I looked at my grandchildren. Lily was watching us with worried eyes. Mason had gone back to eating, oblivious to the tension. Then we'll figure it out, I said firmly. But he doesn't get to just waltz back in and play daddy after what he did. He doesn't get to traumatize these kids twice. Sarah nodded. I told him to contact me through a lawyer if he wants visitation. That I'm not discussing anything directly with him. Good, that's good. Brian did contact a lawyer. He filed for joint custody. Said he'd been suffering from depression and had sought treatment. Said he was stable now and wanted to be part of his children's lives. The court date is next month. I don't know what will happen. But I know this. Sarah is stronger than she was a year ago. Those kids are loved and secure. And we're a family, broken and rearranged, but still a family. Maybe Brian will win partial custody. Maybe he'll actually show up and be a decent father. Maybe he'll disappear again. But either way, Sarah and the kids will be okay. Because they have me. They have this house. They have stability and love, and a grandmother who will fight like hell to protect them. At 3 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, my daughter knocked on my door with her children, and everything changed. But we survived. We're still surviving. And if Brian thinks he can just waltz back into their lives without consequences, without proving he's changed, without acknowledging the damage he caused, well, he's got another thing coming. Because I might be 62 years old, but I'm far from done fighting for my family. Sarah's at work now. The kids are at school. I'm sitting at my kitchen table drinking coffee and looking at the legal documents spread out before me. We have a lawyer. We have documentation. We have witnesses who saw what Sarah went through, what the kids went through. And we have something Brian never had genuine love for these children. Not as possessions or obligations, but as human beings deserving of stability and protection. I don't know if that will be enough for the judge, but it's enough for me. My daughter came to my door at 3 a.m. with nothing but her children and $97. Now she has a job, a future, and a mother who will never stop fighting for her. That has to count for something. It has to.